Hello everybody, and welcome back to Progress America Unfiltered. This is Rhett here with Tyler and Jocelyn to give a little rundown of what we are seeing as we look ahead to the 2024 presidential elections. We have seen some videos drop in recent weeks from President Biden, from former president and newly indicted Donald Trump, and then of course Ron Desantis and some shocking discoveries about his affiliation with pudding cups, which is just absolutely terrifying. And we're going to cover that and more today as we look at some videos that we'll be reacting to as we look to the 2024 presidential election. And we are going to start with our first video from Joe Biden's re-election campaign. This is the most, I think, like feel-good video of them all. So like, what a good way to start this video as we watch Biden give us a little bit of, I guess, some joy. I don't know. Jocelyn, Tyler, what are you looking for in this video before we watch it?
I don't know. I think I need to see some good answers and some good reasoning as to why this is about to be a strong 2024 campaign. So I actually have only watched like part of this video, so I don't really know what to expect, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, same. Absolutely same. Going in blind on all of these, so I will give you my most authentic reactions, Rhett.
I cannot wait. Let's do it. I also haven't seen any of these, but I fear I know a lot about the pudding cup one. All right, let's do it.
Freedom. Personal freedom is fundamental to who we are as Americans.
There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred.
That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy.
This shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country.
Thank you for choosing us.
Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment.
We, the people, will not decide.
So if you're with me, go to joebiden.com and sign up. Let's finish this job. I know we can. Because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
I loved the music in that. Did anybody else have a hard time not dancing along to that?
Definitely.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page there. In terms of other observations, I think this was like definitely like a very Joe Biden-esque, like feel good, excited, looking forward to the future kind of message that we've seen from him before. I mean, it worked before. Is it going to work again? What do you two think?
I think that Joe Biden has really impressed, well, all of us, but a lot of people. And he is an authentically good person. So I went to Catholic University, which means you end up going to school with a lot of people that know the Bidens because, like, you know, Irish Northeastern Catholics, it's just like a thing. And he's an authentically good guy that cares about the things he's fighting for. And you can't say that in politics that much. So even though I think, you know, there are a lot of criticisms, not the least of which everybody running for office is way too old. But, you know, to quote a friend, he's more than earned the right to run again. And I'm excited to see what he does with hopefully his second term.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, you know, I famously have very mixed feelings about another Biden run, if I'm honest. This is just my personal opinion. That said, this I think was a really good ad. I think the let's finish the job rhetoric is good and probably useful, I think, in what he would need as a platform to run in 2024. Because the fact is, a lot of things are unfinished. We're still in limbo with student debt. We're still in limbo with a lot of policies that people have been excited about and are waiting to see thanks to Republicans and the Supreme Court and all of the challenges we're getting left and right. So it's true that the job is not finished, and he's making the argument that he's the best person to finish the job. And I think I have to respect it. And I do think that the ad itself had a lot of optimism and hope that I think was good to see.
And I'm with you, Tyler. I mean, yeah. Look, I think everyone's too old. The Senate's too old. The House is too old. Everyone in American politics right now is too old. So, like, that's not ageism. The governing body should be reflective of the general population. Like, if there were some octogenarians and then some Gen Y and millennials and Gen Z, that would be great. But right now we have a very uneven distribution, okay? So
Absolutely. And I think that also just like looking at the people that are running for president as we move into the Donald Trump ad, like that is a consistent problem of just kind of like the age factor not being representative of the entire population. We'll definitely look at the Trump ad, but then of course, Ron Desantis, I don't know what you think about that, Jocelyn, but is he here to save the day as
actually fair
as our younger president? I don't know. Oh my gosh. I mean,
I eat all
younger
that.
doesn't mean better. Younger doesn't mean better.
Exactly.
Either, okay.
Exactly.
I had this conversation with my dad because, like, my dad had asked me, like, do you think he's too old? Blah, 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 blah. And it's not that I think Biden is too old. There are some people that I think are too old to be in Congress. No offense. But it's not that. But as we'll see when we watch this DeSantis ad, younger does not mean better. So.
Well, okay. And I want to say one more thing. And this is it. And then I promise I'm dropping it. Not to get all team of rivals, but let's be honest about what the president actually does, right? Like, a lot of what he does is hiring and delegating and creating an administration that does amazing work. And I think Biden has done that. You know, I mean, he wasn't even my like fifth choice during the 2020 primaries, but he has succeeded where the Obama White House did not. He's gotten a lot more done. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe Kamala 2024, but too late for that, I guess.
Yeah, way too late for that, I think.
Way too late for that.
Also, just clipping this really quick. This next video is Donald Trump's announcement for the 2024 re-election, or his re-election, I guess. Even though he thinks he didn't lose the first time, he's running for re-election to defeat Biden, even though Donald Trump didn't lose before, according to him. Like, none of this logic makes sense. I don't know how this already came out 5 months ago. Does that feel right to everybody? I feel like this was literally yesterday, but I think this is also just indicative of like how time is an illusion under this like current political theater. Like, I just don't understand how this is happening as rapidly as it is. But anyway, oh, he did it in November.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
and
that sounds
it's May.
about right.
That is so frightening to think about how much time has elapsed, and I feel like I blinked and I mean, it's just like the same headline every day. But with that, I say let's watch the video.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. Thank you, kids. Thank you. All of you. Thank you. Thank you. So many incredible friends and family here tonight. It's such a beautiful thing. Some people say, how do you speak before so many people all the time? When there's love in the room, it's really easy, if you want to know the truth. It really is. You ought to try it sometime. Together, we will be taking on the most corrupt forces and entrenched interests imaginable. Our country is in a horrible state. We're in grave trouble. This is not a task for a politician or a conventional candidate. This is a task for a great movement that embodies the courage, confidence, and the spirit of the American people. This is a movement. This is not for any one individual. This is a job for tens of millions of proud people working together from all across the land and from all walks of life, young and old, black and white, Hispanic and Asian, many of whom we have brought together for the very, very first time. If you look at the numbers, if you look at what's happened with Hispanic, with African American, with Asian, and just look at what's happening, this is a party that has become much bigger, much stronger, much more powerful, can do much more good for our country. This is a job for grandmothers and construction workers, firefighters, builders, teachers, doctors, and farmers who cannot stay quiet any longer. You can't stay quiet any longer. You're angry about what's happening to our country. Our country is being destroyed before your very eyes. It's a job for every aspiring young person and every hard-working parent, for every entrepreneur and underappreciated police officer who is ready to shout for safety in America. The police are being treated so badly. These are great people. They can straighten out the crime. They're the ones that know how to do it. We have to give them back their respect and their dignity. This will not be my campaign. This will be our campaign all together.
Well, I think we saw enough. I feel like ChatGPT could have written a more coherent statement than whatever that was. But he's just like, let me say these words that feel good and sound good. So, yeah. Or sound good to him, I guess. It's just like more like posturing, I guess. Wow.
Can I say something that has nothing to do with Trump? Because I've been like on a mad history binge over the past year. And I think, understandably on our side of the aisle, like we like to get into this fascist or that fascist. But I think we need to really talk about like what is happening. When democracy has been around for a while, people get comfortable that its institutions will self-regulate. And the comfortable class that are fine don't really ring the alarm bells when those institutions are starting to crumble, opening the door for demagoguery. And that's the thing with like this coming Trump run, whether it's him or someone else, like the issue is that our democratic institutions are crumbling and our democratic norms are crumbling, and it's allowing for this mad wealth rush to the top. It's allowing for people like Trump. And I don't know, I mean, I hope this run, we don't get distracted with all the wild stuff he says from what the actual issue is.
Well, and one thing I want to jump in, Jocelyn, is that I think when we say crumbling, I think that takes the onus away from the people who are actually bad actors, and it's not just like, oh no, this is falling apart. It's like this, our systems have been steadily chipped away at intentionally pretty much since they were created. Just depends on who, right? Like we know that these systems weren't built to ensure everybody has an equal say. That's why there's Jim Crow. That's why there's 3/5 compromise. That's why there's all this like stupid stuff that's embedded in our constitution and our legal system. So I even think it's less of our systems are crumbling. It's just people are chipping away, people in power are chipping away at the very few safeguards that existed in the first place and exploiting all of the loopholes that were created in the inception of our democracy in order to, subjugate certain people, my people. And so I just do think it's interesting that I think it's, again, I say this a lot, but it's a feature. It's not a bug. And I think that's what's important. And I think when we watch campaign speeches, because that's not even really an ad, but when we watch speeches like that, you see that he's very quickly highlighting it. The first thing that stuck out to me was his, everybody talks about his populism, blah, blah, blah. But one of the first things he says is like, you're angry about. Like he's dictating to people how they should feel and what they should feel and what they should be angry about. And it's using rhetoric like this. And it's not saying, hey, here are all the things that we could fix. It's like, you're angry about this and this is what we have to do. And for him, what we have to do is destroy Democrats, blah, 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 destroy democracy. But I don't know. I just find it really interesting. Rhett, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally hear what both of you are saying. And this reminds me of the very common theme that we've been identifying throughout the course of these episodes, which is the GOP party does not believe in governance. So then they're going to attack the government. And they don't believe in governing the people. They don't believe in leading effectively. So they're going to do things to destroy the government in hopes that more people will turn to them and say, look, the government wasn't working for you, even though really of course it's not working for them. It's working for the wealthiest among them, the wealthiest of all of us. That's always what it was designed to do, always who it was designed to please, as you were saying, Tyler. And then also just kind of attacking those systems, so then people will turn to them to fix those systems. It's really just kind of like the lack of logic, the lack of reasoning that is just so rampant within the Republican Party. And of course, Donald Trump wants to lead that again, wants to continue destroying these systems, wants to continue employing the richest of his friends into cabinet positions that they're not qualified for. So these people can continue to do the self-regulation, the self kind of serving that we saw for the 4 years under the Trump administration. And it's just to bring that back is, of course, going to be so detrimental to so many people. Just think about what another 4 years would mean if Betsy DeVos was to hop in there while we're talking about things like student loan forgiveness. If Betsy DeVos was to hop back into the Department of Education, that would be so frightening for the millions of borrowers across our country that are looking for relief here. Or I should say the people that have millions of dollars in loans here. It's really just a frightening kind of turn of events to think that he feels deserving of another 4 years. And I think it's on all of us to make sure that absolutely does not happen.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, our producers pointed out, we couldn't find an actual, produced campaign ad from the Trump team. This is obviously just a stump speech he gave at Mar-a-Lago. We joke that maybe he's a little too cheap and lazy to do an actual ad. I think all his money's tied up in legal expenses right now. I think he's just trying to stay out of jail. But yeah, I do think it's interesting. And I think once he has, and let's be real, I think he's a walking advertisement for himself. I think he always has been. I think that's always been the MO here. So one thing that's important moving forward, I think, as platforms and as ourselves, I know we tried to cut off the video as soon as we can because it was 3 minutes. But paying attention to the ad time we give him and the air time that he has, because he is a walking ad for himself in a way that we haven't seen as much recently with other politicians. So anytime he's in front of a microphone and a camera, expect that he's making an ad for 2024.
And so I fear that we have reached the time in our video tour where we will be looking at the Ron Desantis pudding cup video. So we've had some time to prepare ourselves. The viewers at home, you've had some time to prepare yourselves too. We're about to go through something together. I don't know what.
Ron DeSantis loves sticking his fingers where they don't belong. And we're not just talking about pudding. DeSantis has his dirty fingers all over senior entitlements. Like cutting Medicare, slashing Social Security, even raising our retirement age. Tell Ron DeSantis to keep his pudding fingers off our money. Oh, and somebody get this man a spoon.
Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Need extra therapy after that.
Yeah, literally, what did we just watch? Wow.
Well, so they're not wrong that Ron DeSantis wants to attack Social Security and Medicare. Like,
Yeah.
like that, there's truth to that. But also, Donald Trump loves doing that too, right? Like, what do you think about, like, right?
I'm sorry. This is just like the first time I've ever been left speechless, I think, on this show. I cannot believe what we just watched. Wow. Anyway.
That was really bad, one. And two, Rhett, that's a really interesting point because it's like, okay, so you're aware enough that it's bad to cut entitlements to use it as an attack point on a fellow right-wing candidate. It's interesting. Like,
Yeah, and he did so every year he was in office, trying to cut Social Security. So, just so, like, of course, it's like the, look over here, I'm not doing anything, but he really is doing something. Also, like, I was, like, thinking about getting, like, lunch after this video, after we filmed today. I was like, ooh, what am I going to go eat after this? I was thinking about that. Like, suddenly not hungry anymore. Like, this, oh my God, our
Not
producer
even
just
for
said
pudding?
oh, that is so foul. I will never eat pudding again in my life. Oh my God.
never again.
Ew.
The silence says everything
But
here.
I know. Okay, the only coherent thing I can force myself to say after watching that is just like, what a gross backdrop of the pudding, and what an apt metaphor for Ron DeSantis's character as a person. But as you know, broken clocks are right twice a day. There are so many things that he's like actually terrible about and has terrible policy decisions and about that aren't just the way he eats pudding, like his Social Security stances. Obviously, they're not going to bring this up because they're this was like a right-wing video, but his stances on gun control and his attacks on education and diversity. So terrible person. I'm glad that it's, you know, he's getting caught in, I guess, friendly fire on their side and that we're not the ones making putting videos. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens if DeSantis actually gets into the race and to see if the deference for Trump that a lot of Republicans were still doing up to 2022 is still going to be there.
And it's interesting to see how the next couple of years are going to play out. You know, we find ourselves in a very interesting time economically for ordinary Americans because there's been this like threat of recession forever. Meanwhile, employment is pretty steady. You know, interest rates means there is a housing crisis, but that was already there. So it'll be very interesting to see what this specific brand of economic anxiety brings when people still have jobs and still largely have money, but the cost of everything is skyrocketing. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like as we're watching Biden's re-election campaign, we're going to see the Republicans fight to be the one to try to cut Social Security, try to attack Medicare, try to do the things that are so harmful to the American people. Like they're going to race to the end to see who it is that gets to try to serve the wealthiest people out there. And I think we're watching that fight play out in real time. But I think, you know, it would be remiss of us not to enjoy the infighting while we get to see it. Because honestly, it's the little things in life, right?
It really
Absolutely.
is.
But I think before we close out, let's just say you have a place to tune into throughout the 2024 election cycle, where we will tune in every week, sometimes twice a week if you're lucky. And we will talk about, you know, current events. We'll talk about any more wild videos that come out and come down the pike. Because honestly,
Absolutely.
like just starting off so strong between these ads, the putting fingers of it all, we got a place to tune into. Anything y'all want to say before we?
Yeah, one more thing before we leave. I just want to say, you know, ads are great. Ads are meant to make you feel something. It takes a lot of writers to make an ad with the music and the swelling and the B-roll, and it's amazing. Ads are great. Policies and actions are better. So we need to pay attention to what people have done and are doing and what they're proposing, and not just the pretty words that they say in an ad. And I mean that for everyone on both sides, especially now as we're heading into a really critical election. So, you know, pay attention to the ads, let them make you feel something, but also see if these people are backing up what they're saying in their ads. And in a lot of cases, and I think in President Biden's case, he is.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're good to close out today. Tyler, Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining today. And thank you all for watching us at home. We are so excited for you to tune in as we go through this 2024 election cycle. Make sure to comment what you thought about these videos today. Did you have any intense reactions to the pudding cup videos like we did? Let us know below. And make sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram. And we will be sure to see you next week. Thank you so much and have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.